So what we're going to talk to you about is PI planning, quarterly planning, the way we do it here. And over the last 18 months, we've used that to real great effect here at NewsUK to transform how we deliver and how we work with the business, how business and tech really work together. And we're going to talk about things like real getting leadership involved, getting the right team like Gill, giving her a new role in the team, and also getting from 𝒍𝒊𝒅𝒄𝒌 an oven-ready solution that we can actually use to implement PI planning. So, who are we? I'm Kirsteen from NewsUK, this is Gill from NewsUK, and this is Vikram from 𝒍𝒊𝒅𝒄𝒌, who was the third party we brought in. So you might not have heard of NewsUK, but hopefully you've heard of some of our brands. We're the Times, the Sunday Times, the Sun, and lots of broadcast brands like Virgin Radio, TalkSport, Times Radio launched during the pandemic, and rather infamously 𝒕𝒕𝒐𝒏 with 𝒂𝒄𝒅𝒄𝒌 that launched a few months ago. So, what was the problem? Well, it's the classic problem that I think probably everybody has here, and I've certainly had in every job I've ever had before. How do we work? So NewsUK is 450 people, it's 10 teams, and it was really difficult for us to work together and really show what we were doing. So we've got the three title teams, Times, Sun, and Broadcast, with quite small teams with common backends like tooling, data, how we work with like login and registration. So how did we work together? And then how do we work with the business who are newspaper people or broadcast people? They're not tech people. How do we explain to them what we're doing, what the progress is? Please don't change your mind every day about what you want to deliver. When we're saying we'd like to do 3-month planning and they like to do things like every day. So we were doing quarterly planning, but we were lacking transparency. The business would change priorities and wouldn't understand why we weren't delivering what they wanted to do. We weren't giving them the best bang for the buck. There was a real lack of trust. They just didn't believe that we were trying our best. And also, everyone did their own reports, and it was all a bit inconsistent and hard to understand what was going on. So here we go.
Okay, brilliant. So first step of the journey was really helped by the fact that we had a fantastically strong sponsor, which is David Klein, who's the Group Chief Technology Officer for News Group. And basically, he had a great experience of using quarterly planning in his previous life. And said, look, that's a really great tool to use or great approach to use in this context as well. So 𝒍𝒊𝒅𝒄𝒌 were very fortunate to be selected as a transformation partners. And our role was to help design the approach, basically introduce and embed this approach and also set up an approach where we can continuously improve as well. Now, for us, we believe if you're going to make such a systemic shift as introducing quarterly planning, it's a vulnerable place to be for the business, right? For the leaders, it means that you may have to be better at prioritizing. You may have to accept that someone's going to say, no, I can't do that right now, etc. So we believe that you've got to start with the leadership team and you've got to start them on the journey before doing anything else. So we spent quite a lot of time in engaging with the top 50 of the business, the lines of business that Kirsteen was describing, as well as the technology teams too. So we just didn't just engage with the technology team and said, right, let's introduce you to this approach. We actually walked the business leaders through this to ensure that everyone was clear on what it was, what is quarterly planning, what's their role in it, but most importantly, getting their commitments to role model these ways of working to make it really safe for everyone else to operate in that way as well.
Okay, so before I start, I'm Australian, so you need to put your English translators on because I will say data and not data, just to be clear. So first off, what is PI planning? So PI planning or quarterly planning is part of the SAFE framework. It is an event you run every quarter at the end of the quarter to plan ahead for the coming up quarter. It is also a 2-day event. It is a very intense 2 days, and you literally have everyone from the execs right down to, you know, the developers, the people who are admin, are all involved. Literally, you can have up to 150, 200 people all involved in this 2-day, very intense event. It does feel like waterfall. A lot of people do think it is waterfall. It's really not. You know, we're a very complex organisation. We have a lot of dependencies. We have a lot of cross-functional work. So we need to have the time to actually come together and kind of think about what we're going to be working on. We also work in media, you know, like when the Queen died or when the war in Ukraine happened, you know, we're having to react to the news around us. So we also need to at least, although we know where we're heading, we need to be be able to still adapt to what's going on in our world around us. So, the role of Gill, as Kirsteen put it. So my role didn't exist before PI planning or quarterly planning came in, before 𝒍𝒊𝒅𝒐 came in. We had no one really kind of setting that bar of what had to be tracked, how we managed our work, how we did our planning. So in the first PI planning, we had literally 3 weeks to prepare. So everyone came back from holiday in August to find out that the way we were doing it was no longer the way it was, and you had 3 weeks to now figure out how this new world worked and get on board with this 2-day event that was coming up down the line. So literally all teams, so just in tech we had 10 teams, including, and then bringing all of the business to have a complete alignment across all the teams, and that included having, you know, key outcomes for all of our pieces of work, you know, the vision, have clear roadmaps, you know, understand the priorities, have all of our dependencies mapped out and agreed. And that also included for me, because this was a new role, I had to shadow 𝒍𝒂 and actually understanding how PI planning worked, because Kirsteen made it very clear that once this event was over, not only did I have to continue running those quarterly events afterwards, I also had to figure out how we were going to track that work as well. And our first PI was very bumpy. You know, we had the exec very clearly going, okay, yep, we don't prioritize as well as we should. But we also had developers going, okay, yep, I understand why the business is asking for these needs more than I had before. So, you know, as much as there is a lot going on in it, there was a lot of value in it. And one of the benefits of PI planning is that you cannot hide. You can try, you can make up as much as you want, but actually you will be found out. So it is just better to be fully transparent as much as possible. So when we got to the end of our first PI, it then fell to me to figure out how we then manage this work, how did we track this work. 𝒍𝒂 obviously gave some amazing advice and said, here's a clear example of a cadence you can follow. Obviously we have evolved from this. This is one of the beauties of the PI planning process and quarterly planning process, is that, you know, being agile, you can adapt and evolve it to work for what works for you. So we introduced Scrum of Scrums every fortnight with the program managers. We introduced 30 and 90-day reviews when actually they were presentations, but now we do more of a report or a in-person event. And then also we aligned all the team sprints. Before, again, we had different ways of reporting stuff, and all the teams had to bring all their work together and follow a more consistent view. What was also in all of that was actually figuring out how we track the work. And there is a silent partner, despite the three of us, that was also involved, which is Paul Douglas, who is our tooling manager, who's in the front row, who's very excited to be here. So him and I are like partners in crime. We basically got together, and him and I had a few rules. We had to be fully transparent. We wanted to reduce the amount of reporting we were doing, and we wanted to reduce the amount of work people had to do. You know, PI planning can feel like a lot of work. And also, we had a simple motto, which is keep it simple, stupid. So how we did that was we used the tooling we already had. So we used Jira. We created a Jira board. We created our own Jira tickets. We customized that. We basically pulled in all the work that we were tracking in Miro that we felt was relevant for us into Jira. And we then set up a Jira board where we had RAG statuses that we would use during our Scrum of Scrums that we would pull up, and we would literally focus on anything red and amber. It was very clear, very transparent. We had the right conversations. And it then became our source of truth. So before, where we had multiple different spreadsheets or different reports everywhere, if it was in here, this was the source of truth. It didn't matter wherever else it was. The other thing we brought in as well was our 𝒍𝒊𝒌𝒆 tool that we were already using. Paul and I had brought it in the year before because my mission statement the year before was death to spreadsheets. And this literally is a one-stop shop of creating automatic reports that automatically update from Jira. You can literally build out anything. It's proper deep dive. You can build it into Confluence. And it basically helped us paint that really big picture we needed to show back to the business of what was going on. So immediately within 3 weeks, Paul and I did this in 3 weeks. And the reason we did it in 3 weeks was because, as I'm sure a lot of us know, people or the business get involved in things and think, yeah, this is a great idea. But then actually, after a while, if you're not seeing the improvements you want to see, you kind of go, oh yeah, what was the point of that? So we wanted to keep that momentum. So we made sure we turned it around really quickly. And we immediately were able to send out a report straight away showing, here is the progress of work every 2 weeks. Here are the RAG statuses. Here's the detail of why things are red and amber. Here's the stuff you've dropped. Here's the reasons why they were dropped. Here's the stuff we haven't completed because we didn't estimate it very well. You know, we were able to show dependencies of how things were connected so that the business understood that there was a chain of events. You know, we were able to show business priorities versus confidence levels. We were even able to build out portfolio views of teams. So for the Sun broadcast and the Times, we were able to show here is literally every piece of work going on for this title brand, even if it wasn't actually related to work that they were expecting. We even were able to use it within ourselves. So for example, this is our changes of scope. So we were able to figure out and understand what was an increase or decrease of scope. So if we brought in something and then it changed, and we were able to show whether it had a high, low, or medium impact. And you know, for us, if we had 80% work completed, we were able to really clearly see that due to, like this one, for example, is 28 decrease, meaning that actually we overcommitted. And for us in tech, we were able to kind of review that on ourselves and go, okay, we've overcommitted here a little bit. How can we improve next time? So as much as it painted the picture to the business, it really helped us understand as well. And it also showed us new work. Again, we're agile, things change, you know, decisions are different for whatever reason. So again, we want to show work coming in as well. And one of the most powerful things that actually happened was that we were able to pull out to show the business once we built this thing, they then decided that they didn't want it as soon as it was ready to be released. And we were able to go back and say, okay, well, we spent 17 weeks across 3 teams doing that. And you've just decided before we hit the push button to go live that you don't want it anymore. We didn't even have to tell them how much that cost. You could just see them on the call in their brain doing the sums and then going, okay, yeah, we should think about that a bit more. And actually, they've been able to go forward and change their perception on that and just think a bit more before they kind of make those snap decisions. But also, the beauty of being in Jira and in 𝒕𝒉𝒊𝒔 is that, again, it's very adaptable. So Paul and I have managed to introduce new reports. We've even been able to highlight, you know, how much work tech need to do between data governance or, you know, security updates that have to be done. And actually, that's helped the teams now really show back to the business how much extra work they need to actually manage their platforms. And have even now been able to introduce that in the last sprint of every quarter is a tech sprint. So really, they work 5 sprints with what's been set. And then the last sprint is for them to kind of do an inspect, adapt, maintain on what they want to do. And then Paul and I have also continued to evolve the PI planning process. So we now have a spreadsheet that everything is put into. So we're very clear on what information we need from everyone. That's embedded into the Miro board that we use. And then actually Paul set up an automation that automatically creates those tickets. And that saves us around 40 to 60 hours worth of manual work every single quarter that we do it. So we're constantly looking for those efficiencies that, you know, take that burden away from the teams. And even our reporting, we've gone from like 5 reports every few weeks to 1 report that they have to do because they literally just have to put an update in once and then everything's in Confluence, it's automatically updated and it carries on. So we've taken on the PI planning process, but we've adapted it to ourselves and we're continuously looking to improve and make it better for us.
All right, so let's talk about the benefits and the impact. So the real big one has been with our relationship with the executive. And talking to one of them recently, she said, all our old frustrations are gone. It's really the transparency that they have now and the fact they have so much access and can see everything that's happened. And then if we look at some of the pictures here, this is an event we did on the 13th of October, the 90-day review that Gill was talking about, where we show everybody what we did in the last 3 months stroke, what everything is, and then what are we doing in the future. So we had the whole 8th floor, all 10 teams had a stand, everyone from business, everyone from tech was invited, people from all over the country came, the CEO spent an hour with us, all the exec were there. It just transforms the relationship we have, understanding our products and our relationships with each other. And then the other thing around it is the work is known, agreed and efficient. We get the best bang for the buck. So on the left, you can see the dependency map for the first time that we did PI planning, and this is the one from June. And you can see that we've already started to really streamline what we're doing. People understand, they've reduced the amount of work that we're committing to. And it's data like this that we've used to actually inform a reorg in the business that's actually given a little bit more power to the title team so they've got more autonomy about what they do. There's some other impacts as well. We actually had our Marconi in recently and did our NPS score. We got a 4.0 NPS score, which we're really happy. And that's partly because everyone has a North Star. They know if they pick up a piece of code, what they're going to do, they know actually what the value is. Is it going to increase in revenue? Is it going to decrease costs? Is it going to get more subscribers? So everyone knows why they're doing things. We can actually give a reason for doing stability and tech debt that's so hard to get prioritized against features. This is an example of something we recently did on the Times to make their lead time to change much smaller. And also, I have to say, and I'm looking at this and I am thinking about Goodhart's law that somebody was talking about earlier, but before we had PI planning, the Sun did maybe 50% sometimes of what they said they were going to do per quarter. The first PI planning we had 82%, and last, this is why I'm thinking Goodhart's law, they nearly delivered everything they said they were going to do in the last quarter. So maybe that's a little bit gamed, but really what we're talking about is that we're asking the right questions, and we're not a lot of it's just not changing priorities and people just focusing on the work they have to deliver. And as a result of this real good work in the Sun are looking to put PI planning further down the chain, so in marketing and commercial. So the whole team are going to be using PI planning going forwards.
Brilliant. So obviously we asked the questions to ourselves, why has this been so successful? Not only been embedding this new way of working, but also it's got better and better every single quarter to the point where it's being expanded across the broader business and taken internationally as well. And I guess our conclusions are, one, it was really great to get a brilliant sponsor and have a case for change. So they had that huge frustration between the tech and the business teams, which I'm sure most of us all kind of are close to. It happens all the time, right? But I think the other key thing which really made the difference was having that active, involved leadership group. They really understood the implications, and that's what we helped with, is understanding the implications. If they didn't do what they did, then they'd end up having the similar challenges they had before as well. And navigating some of the bumps in the road. If you're a media business, there's plenty of bumps in the road to be dealt with, and to be coached through that, I think, was really, really useful. But I think for me, it's the disciplined execution. We see a lot of organisations, when they go through this journey, almost relax as it goes along. And that discipline, if you lose it, just means that it's not going to be as effective. So maintaining the discipline with the likes of obviously Kirsteen and Gill in the team, but on top of that, through an automated approach at managing and monitoring all the data, made a huge difference. It made it easy for the people to actually use the systems that we were providing, but it created the transparency which allowed the leadership to genuinely be interested on a weekly, monthly basis about what's the data telling us, what can we do better in order for us to deliver and address our customer needs in a more effective way. Yeah.
So we hope that we've shown you today how we've managed to use PI planning to create a genuine step change in how we change how we work with the business and how we work in tech ourselves, and how we've actually managed to then do things like increase the revenue and decrease the costs of the company. Thank you very much.